Here I am in my coffee corner. Well, if I just show you the actual reality of it, this here is my office. Well, you could say studio here. Now, let me just put that down. And a warm welcome to the channel. Now, the headline, I thought about it in my mind, and the title or the thumbnail or whatever you will see before you watch this video should have said the Chinese people don't like the CCP, the Communist Party of China, or the CPC, which is the official title, which is the China's political party, China's whatever it is. So regardless of this, now I've been living in Asia for 30 years. I have been in Hong Kong and even lived in Hong Kong for countless years before that. I've been to mainland China. I've lost count, mainly because of my work before in Shenzhen and mainly Shanghai. But I have been to all the other places that you see on the news, like, the first city I visited in China was Wuhan way back in 1994. Beijing, Qinghai, Xi'an, Guangzhou, Shenzhen before it was really big, Chongqing before it got massive and you could say compared to the old city quite ugly, etc., etc. And I do keep in contact with a lot of my Chinese friends. Now, obviously, this is a little bit sort of like controversy or whatever you like to say. But when we do meet up, now I haven't been to Shanghai for years, since 2013, but I have been to Hong Kong quite recently. I go there maybe like once or twice a year, mainly just to hang out with some friends and just have a good time. The same as when I go to Korea, or if I go to Japan, or if I go to Thailand, for example. But sometimes we do get a little bit drunk. And when we get drunk, we loosen our inhibitions and we start to talk about politics. And you would say that the people that I do know in China and in Hong Kong don't like the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. They just don't like it. And you would even say, in one respect, they are jealous and wish that China was a democracy. Now, I could say, because I have quite a few friends in Asia, in China and in Hong Kong, and you would even say Taiwan as well, that this is something that they don't talk about, but when the alcohol pours, this is what they say. And does alcohol reveal the truth? Well, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So maybe I would start off the conversation by saying, I don't know, let's talk about the underground system. Now, in Hong Kong, the underground system and in Singapore was created by the British. And it doesn't really care about the facade, how it looks, but they care about the logistics of it and how many trains go through it. Now, if you go to Asia, it's quite common in places like Bangkok or in Malaysia, in China, where else? Where they do have a metro system, there would be a train every 90 seconds. And you would go, wow, that's pretty fast. But in Hong Kong and in Singapore, in the rush hour, they have a train every 45 seconds. So it is busy, it is crowded, but you're not squashed together like a subway system that you've seen in Japan or you've seen in, you could say, in Shanghai. It's just uncomfortable, but it does get you to the destination, usually on time. When I talk about that with my Chinese friends, they go, oh, why can't they just follow the West? And the Chinese government just don't want to do it. They seem to be in a great hurry to be the best country in the world, and they will step on people and they will backstab people in order to get there. And a lot of the Chinese people, according to my Chinese friends, just don't like it. But the thing is, they don't have any choice and they just have to accept it. Some are really rich and really wealthy and they have a BMW or Mercedes. I have one friend, who has a Ferrari F40. It's quite an old one, but that's him doing really well in really difficult situations. That the Chinese government, they want you to, well, get rich because they get tax from you, and tax equals more money for them, etc. But it's very difficult to get there, and they're still stuck in their old ways, the red tape, as you call it. Nowadays, in a lot of countries, the red tape is slowly disappearing because the governments, not all, but you could say some, just like it's easy to do. You can do it online. You don't need a lawyer, for example, to go through the red tape. You can do it by yourself. It may take a bit of time. It's a lot easier than the old days. I remember my first Chinese visa. I got it in Bangkok way back in 1994 it was. I had to go for it was a business visa. I had to go for about 4 different interviews with the Chinese embassy in Bangkok before they even considered. And there was a lot of paperwork involved. Now, in those days, there wasn't computers, and basically it was just a fax machine between 2 different parties, one in Bangkok and the other one was in, let's say, Beijing. And eventually I did get my visa, and eventually I did go to mainland China in the end. It was a great time. Think of it like this. There are 1.4 billion people in China. You could say 100 million of them are with the Communist Party. They love it. That's a really small percentage. Now, think of the percentage who are, let's say, 20 to, let's say, 60 years old, around about retirement age. If you ask them, they won't talk about it. They would sort of like smile and say, yeah, everything's fine. And they would try to move on the subject because it's sort of taboo to talk about. And that's exactly what the Chinese government want. They don't want the propaganda against it. But the reality is, if you do have 1 or 2 beers with them or shots of whiskey, then you ask the same kind of question, but in an indirect way, then maybe something that you've seen on TV and you just want to hear from them. They basically are saying, well, no, don't like it. I wish it was democratic. Do they like Xi Jinping? No, they don't. He's just trying to be a god, like a demigod. You could say, like the Kims in North Korea. And they would say this, but they won't say it directly. But if you read between the lines, that's what they're saying. And they would wish that he would go, the Communist Party would be disbanded, and there would be some kind of democracy where people have that freedom. If they want to say, I hate King Charles, Joe Biden is a tosser, they can't do that. They can't shout out loudly that Xi Jinping is a complete another twat, for example. I'm not too sure if I'm allowed to say that word on YouTube, but I have done it already. Ha! Never mind. I'm not too sure if they're going to listen to the whole thing of this or 8 minutes of it. But regardless of that, this is what I find. And this is what I find frustrating when you do watch YouTube videos. The main people, the Western shills who get hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube doing all the positive thing and saying that China is a democracy in a Chinese way. But democracy just means one thing. It's no other interpretation according to any kind of dictionary that you look into. What is the true meaning of democracy? China has got you to believe that they have their own democracy, when democracy basically is just one thing. It's a lawyer kind of word. You can't change it, you can't manipulate it. But if you add in words around it, then it can. And that's what the Chinese government does. And this is what people in China don't like. There are many people who are incredibly successful. But look at Jack Ma, for example. He created Alibaba, one of the biggest trading platforms in China, from business to customer, B2C. He started off by just copying eBay. Is that accepted? Well, that's up to you. I don't think so. But people love it. And the Chinese government sort of said, well, yeah, we're making money from this. But the reality is that they don't like Jack Ma, because where did he get the money from it? Well, he got it from the SoftBank. The SoftBank is a Japanese bank in Tokyo. So who's getting the big share of it? The SoftBank in Japan, who is now one of the richest banks in the world, all because of Alibaba, and they're still getting payments from him or the company every single month. This you can't discuss in China, but if it's with your really good friends and you trust these friends and your friends are not going to blab on you, then you could actually find out the truth. You can't find it online. You can't find it on a newspaper, but you can find it if you actually go to China or Hong Kong and ask the question, and in a way that you're not going to offend anyone. And that's quite difficult to do because you have the face value, and they implore this in China with the face value that you can only say this, don't do that, because you're just going to embarrass yourself. This is China for you. You could say it's similar to Japan, similar to South Korea, but they're more open there. There is no, if you say, I don't like the Prime Minister of Japan, if you're in Japan, people won't get angry with you. They'll possibly ask you the reason why. Or if they say to you this, you would ask the reason why. In China, this is a big no-no. This is, I'm trying to think of the word, taput. No, that's the wrong word. It's taboo. That's the word I'm looking for. In my mind there, I was thinking of taboo, which is the company for Alibaba, who do the things like eBay there. You just don't do it. But when the alcohol does pour, I repeat, it gets loosened tongues, and you can actually find out quite a lot. But they would never put this on Chinese social media like on Weibo. They have Bilibili, which is a little bit like YouTube. It just wouldn't happen. The Western shills who are there, they only do the positive thing about China. That's fine, that's okay. Do the tourist destinations, it's good to see, like Harbin, or going to Wuhan, or going to Chongqing, or some small rural areas. Many people want to see it. But don't get into the politics, because as soon as you start to talk about politics, you can't do the negative thing. You can only do the positive thing about China. And you would say, these YouTubers who do get thousands, hundreds of thousands of views are sort of like little pop stars, little movie stars, and go, yay, because this would never happen in, you could say, it would be very rare to happen in the Western world, the countries that have democracy in it, and you do have freedom of speech, and you do have, well, some kind of privacy with that. So, do Chinese people like the Communist Party? A very small percentage who are in the Communist Party, and they do make a lot of money out of the Communist Party. The people who don't, and they struggle, which is a large percentage of the people in China, just have to keep quiet, and it's just not worth the hassle to say it if you do, because you're just going to get into difficulties one way or the other. These kind of videos sometimes do get picked up by the Western medias, and I would get a lot of negative comments. You don't know what you're talking about. You haven't been in China for a long time. It's regardless of that fact that I haven't been in mainland China for a long time. Last year I was in Hong Kong. If you call that China, Hong Kong people don't call it China. Many Hong Kong people who you actually speak to don't like the national security law. It's only the Chinese people or the shills or government who do love the national security law, but the people in Hong Kong don't. Go and speak to them. But they have no choice, but at least they still have the freedom of speech, one way or another. Apart from Jimmy Lau, who used to be the owner of Apple Times, and who was an activist for democracy in Hong Kong, but the CCP just took that all away from him, and now he's going to do time for a long time in a Hong Kong or a mainland China prison, which no one actually really wants to go to. So I hope you get my drift of this video. I've been waffling on for about 15 minutes. Yes, this is Coffee Chat. There it is. Let me have a sip. And I hope you enjoyed my little rant and my opinion and my truth about China. Do like, subscribe and share with your friends, with your family. For example, get the word out there And the word quite simply is the Chinese people don't like the Chinese government. Now, there was a poll that they said China is one of the happiest countries in the world. Wow. Now, if you do a poll in China, you would have to, the same as anywhere else, you would have to go to a registered place, you would have to show your ID card, and you would say yes or no. That yes or no is going to be notarized on your ID card. So if you think you're happy, most people are going to say, oh, I don't want the problem with it. Yes, go, and then that's it. But if you put no, then this is a negative on your social credit system, your social credit score, and this will be a black mark against you. So what would you prefer? The positive by just saying yes and telling a little lie, or putting in the X and saying no, and it's a black mark against you and you have to do the exam again, for example, if you're in school, in that kind of scenario. So it's sort of like fake news which comes out with that. And you and I would probably do exactly the same. Anything for an easier life with less red tape, so to speak, hey, you're going to do it. It's an individual thing. And it would be very difficult to get a group of people to say something. Now, when they do get a group of people to say something that they don't like, the Chinese government automatically blames America and saying, these are puppets, these are what they're told to do by the CIA, or a black op group, or maybe the NED. If you speak to a Chinese person or a Hong Kong person, which I did, related to what I'm saying, let's say the Hong Kong protests way back in 2014, which I was there for, and 2019, no. Yeah. And the people in Hong Kong love Hong Kong and they like how it was. Now, it hasn't been perfect. When the British were there, they did do some bad things related to some protests in the 1960s. But this is a long time ago and things have moved on since the 1960s. Don't dwell in the past, just learn from the past, etc., and move forward. So they're just not happy. The only thing is they can't do anything about it. And the thing is, with China related to Hong Kong, it was British for 99 years, and Britain did develop Hong Kong, period, with that. And you would say most of the people were happy with it. They were excited in 1997 that Hong Kong was going to go back to China. Who wouldn't be happy? With the promise that Hong Kong would be run in the same way for at least 50 years. And if you don't like it, then you have an opportunity to move. But that was 1997 when the actual transaction happened. And the agreement was by Margaret Thatcher and the president of China at the time, I've forgotten his name. And they said, one country, two systems. Now, Taiwan looks at this, and mainland China wants reunification, if you can call it reunification. And they go, well, look what happened to Hong Kong. So that's why they're just saying no to it, just no. And if you speak to some Taiwanese people, they would say, oh, I hope it never happens. I hope it never happens. And that's the thing. Yeah? In the democratized countries, it's, you can say what you want, yeah? Good or bad. But in China, you can't. And if you do, not necessarily that you can't, it's just a black mark on everything that you do. And even the police may knock on your door at 4 o'clock in the morning and say, would you like to come to the police station for a nice cup of tea? I don't drink tea, it's a lovely cup of coffee. That's nice. So, your thoughts, your comments in the comment section below. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like the video, give it a thumbs down. Do subscribe, do check your subscription, and if you feel generous enough to donate to the Foundation of Tokyo and Pickle, these are my two beautiful cats I have here, then follow money links in the description below. This can be done on Super Thanks, this can be done on becoming a member, and it can also be done on Patreon as well. God bless to everyone. I will wish you a wonderful day, and I hope I've given you some food for thought related to me rabbiting on for about 20 minutes about how people don't trust the Chinese people in China don't really trust the Chinese government. This will never be released on any Chinese government website. It will always be the positive that people do. Now, again, I repeat, there are some people, but it's a small percentage, maybe like 10-15%, who do love the government, and maybe they are government officials, but a lot of the people, rich and you could say middle class, just want democracy and just want the same as the rest of the world, that they can open up a YouTube channel and speak directly to people like I am doing to you. It's just something they can't do. Perhaps they want to, perhaps they do like Chinese government, perhaps, but I would say the vast percentage don't, but they can't open their voice about it because, well, it's not worth the hassle. It's not worth the argument. And when they do, and maybe it gets released, the Chinese government will say they were manipulated by the United States of America. My name is James. This is the James N. Cooper Show. Thank you again for your time, and I will wish you again a happy day. Bye-bye for now. From King Bob and myself, I would say bye-bye for now. Cheers. Ooh.